Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Anything going on in the world today?
Damn!
Well, to everybody who is tuning in, we know that Donald Trump was just sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. Give him a chance! So, in his inaugural address, Trump said the golden age of America has begun, and he wasted no time in outlining a slew of executive orders, but did not specifically talk about, at least yet, imposing those tariffs on Canada. So we want to sort of dissect today's inauguration and our reaction to what we just saw in Washington, D.C., Andrea.
Okay, so where are we going to start? We're going to talk TikTok, or we're going to start with the inauguration?
Inauguration.
There's so much going on. First of all, happy to see all of your happy, your smiling faces.
Yes. We're in Canada.
And a reminder, happy Martin Luther King Day. Start off on a lighter note.
Yeah, that's smart.
Okay,
That's smart.
so as I'm watching this inauguration, which we literally just left our televisions watching it, I am confused and perplexed and befuddled because while all the pomp and circumstance, which I usually love to watch for all of these types of events, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, how is everybody just acting like not just a couple years ago, this same person who you are celebrating today tried to overthrow the government and steal an election.
And that
here
room
we are-
was trashed,
and
that very room that he's being inaugurated in.
And I'm just looking at it going, why does, he doesn't deserve this sacred tradition. He tried to dismantle the entire system just, not 10 years ago, not 50 years ago. Just 4 years ago. So I was having a hard time just watching everybody with smiles on their faces. A lot of those people who are in that room were heavy critics of his, including his own vice president. And I'm just watching for a crack or like someone to just blink and be like, I know what's going on, but it seems like everybody has drank the Kool-Aid and I'm just like, okay.
Well, there were some subtle cues. Like you noticed, like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were, of course, sitting right off to his, I guess, left, and I was zeroed in on them at certain points in time because they were not clapping during lots of it, and everybody was giving standing ovations. They stayed seated. So there was some subtle messaging going on.
Who I took my tone from was George Bush. He was sitting there, and he's sitting in a really illustrious lineup with Barack Obama, the Clintons, and George Bush's wife, whose name, why can't I remember? Laura, thank you. I was thinking his mother. Anyway, he just kept sort of looking around and trying to get everyone's attention, like the bad boy in school, like the class clown, like, hey, he's like, can you believe it? He wanted someone to be like, can you believe this is a joke?
Yeah.
A failed casino mogul wasn't president for the second time.
Yeah. The thing
like, can you believe it?
He is the naughty boy, and he's the only one who gave us perhaps a few moments of levity.
Yeah.
Because what I was witnessing was an unprecedented infiltration of capitalism into American politics. Unprecedented. If you take a look, you know Trump, he's all about optics. Who's sitting where? And there was billionaires row. It was Elon Musk. It was Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google. It was Zuckerberg. It was Bezos, the CEO of TikTok, although he's not in that actual lineup. And all I said was, this is the message. Who is controlling American government from here on in? It ain't Trump, it's the billionaire bros. So look out.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because you know who's going to get a rude awakening? During this past election, Trump got a lot of support from Black men, Latino men, women, and young voters who believe that he is the answer to what their problems. They can't afford groceries, the economy is in the toilet. And I'm thinking to myself, are you not paying attention to the people who are in this room who do not have your interests in their hearts?
Yeah.
Are you guys paying attention to that while you're paying attention to all this TikTok banning nonsense? This is what's really going to happen. There's going to be a nationwide ban on abortion. He's getting rid of your affordable health care. Are you guys paying attention to that? Because in that speech, I'm like, I wonder if they're reading between the lines. And I know the answer is no, but I'm just like, when is everybody going to kind of wake up and see
Well, no, because
what's really going on?
I don't know. I think what's more important, Barron Trump really grew a lot. He's shot up.
I was looking at him a lot during this. You know what? I was surprised too. I was like, wow, he was like my son's age, I feel like, the last time around.
Yeah.
But he still has the same face. He looks,
Skyrocketed.
I'm like, maybe he's the one who's gonna save us all.
Oh, please. No. I was thinking the opposite. I'm thinking when you think of most dictators, what they do is once they're finished what happens? Their son takes over, and I'm looking and I'm counting how many Trump children in that background. I go, yeah, there's how many of them? 4 of them? Three boys and 2 girls. I'm like, if you don't like Trump, you better get used to it, because I have a feeling that these men that we're seeing right now are going to be in lockstep to be the next president in the future.
Can we talk about the obvious also in the room? As if anybody was watching, the procession of people, you all know that this was supposed to be outdoors. It was canceled last minute and moved indoors, and it was supposed to be almost 600 people.
Because of the cold temperatures.
Yeah.
Supposedly the cold temperatures. I think somebody was a little nervous about crowd size, but anyway, what I wanted to say was, when we look at what the push has been, if you were a Democrat and supporting Democrats, was this increase of diversity of women and people of color. And that room was real throwbacky to me because it was very homogenous. I saw a lot of old white men, and I just thought to myself, and he specifically said in his speech that basically DEI is over. And so, we're going to go colorblind.
Yes.
And there's only 2 genders. It's only male. It's only female. To which I say,
there's also freedom of speech.
Then there's freedom of speech.
Contradiction. I'm going to be taking over. It's America's going to be, protecting our own interests and whatever. And yet we're also going to be a peacemaker. But we're going to take over the Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America.
You're going to get in based on your merit, something that rich people always seem to do, getting in on their own merit, not paying their way in. He said a lot of jarring, very bizarre things during that
contradictory,
speech.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna go
it's
more into
okay. It's gonna be okay.
We are going to do more of a deep dive on this tomorrow.
Yes, it's not over, folks. Brace yourselves. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Americans are back on TikTok. Y'all, come on. Back after not being able to access the app on Saturday night for a whole 12 hours, folks. In a notification, the company thanked Donald Trump for saving the platform. All right, Trump had said that he would issue an executive order to delay the divest or ban order from the U.S. government. So what do we make of this app being reinstated? Jess, I'm going to throw this hot potato over to you first, my friend.
Well, I think some of us might be confused because it was Trump who sort of spurred this banning of TikTok in the first place,
August
right?
of 2020.
Exactly, August of 2020. And then March of this year, he happened to meet with a Republican donor who owns 15% of the company that owns TikTok. And then a couple months later, Trump joins TikTok. So I think we can sort of connect the dots about what's going on. Again, it's money.
It's money because it's not, what he keeps saying is that this is about data and privacy and security so that a foreign government doesn't have that much access to information of so many Americans, right? 100 or 200 million Americans, whoever's on it. And to me, it was never about freedom of speech, and it was never about data or privacy because he sold that off a long time ago. I think tech had their way. There's a great filmmaker. I think he was the former Secretary of Education or Labor in the United States, and his name is Robert Reich, and he's been very, very vocal. And he put up this, to me, which was the encapsulation of all of this, when he basically said, we'll put it up if we can pull it up. So it's dangerous for China to have the ability to access our data and manipulate us via social media apps, but it's okay for America's billionaires to have the ability to access our data and manipulate us via social media apps. Do I have this right? So it's not that. And again, if I go back to Billionaires Row, that's at the inauguration, what this comes down to is accessing the Chinese market. That is 1.4 billion people. Google can't get in. Amazon can't get in, Meta can't get in, and Elon Musk just messaged yesterday on X, I think it's really unfair that we allow TikTok in, but I can't have X in China. So this is all about money. The billionaire bros, they want in on China, and Trump is their way to get there.
I agree with you, but I think it's also one of Trump's best tactics, which is distract you with some nonsense like, oh, we're going to make Canada the 51st state. Meanwhile, people aren't going to pay attention to the real things that are about to happen to them. Because if you really paid attention to this TikTok ban, listen, why would there be a pre-inauguration TikTok-sponsored party? Does that make any sense? If you're going to ban my app, why would you have a party at the inauguration? Save TikTok. It doesn't make any sense. And on Friday, the CEO of TikTok thanked the president. Listen to this. I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States. This is a strong stand for the First Amendment against arbitrary censorship. This is a whole lot of hooey. This is a whole lot of nonsense. He wants to distract the American people with this app nonsense because all the influencers and small businesses who make a lot of money on this app are all like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen. And the people who just like doom scroll for hours are distracted. What's really gonna happen is you're gonna have a national ban on abortion and you're losing your health care. And that immigration that you think is just gonna affect those people who are crossing the border from Mexico, you better open your eyes. It's gonna affect a lot of you who sit comfortably thinking it's not gonna affect you.
Yep.
So be distracted by the TikTok nonsense. That's really not a ban at all. It was just a distraction that lasted for 12 hours. How much of a ban is that?
Well, we'll see what happens. It's not over, right?
Yeah,
You're right.
We
it's
just
not
placed
over.
a temporary sort of cease and desist.
Yeah, it's true. Boy, it's going to be a long 4 years.
So Reddit users are sharing random acts of kindness that have stuck with them for their entire lives. For instance, someone had their groceries paid for by a stranger after their card was declined. So is there an act of kindness that has happened to you that you really stays with you?
I mean, one time somebody in the drive-thru paid for my coffee, and I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. And then I paid it forward, and I paid for the person behind me. But it was actually an act of kindness that I wanted to emulate for my daughter. So there's a coffee shop really close by here, and there's always the same person who is he's an older man, and he's always holding the door open. And my daughter came downtown with me one day, and it's really interesting for, I think, young children when they see people who are on the streets. It's a real jarring experience. And she said, what's the story there? And I said, let's go find out. And we came to introduce ourselves, and his name is Time. And I don't know if that's his real name, but that's what he went by. And I said, would you like to join us for lunch? So we actually brought him inside. It was a little coffee shop, and we had lunch, and we asked him his story. And Marqueza was enthralled. He was such a lovely man. He had lost his job several years ago, could not get on his feet, and he's now sleeping on the streets of Toronto. And he's just trying to earn enough money to get a roof over his head, at least for a couple of nights. But the reason why I tell this story is not for me, but to do this for children is how you change the next generation. Because now, anytime we see anybody who she thinks might be experiencing homelessness, she's always like, oh my gosh, I wonder what their story is.
Yeah, everybody
there's
has
a
a
person
story.
behind that.
Yeah.
So I see Time from time to time, and I say hello just to check in to see how he's doing. But I think Marqueza, more than that, most of the time she'll say to me, I wonder how Time is doing. So I think do this for children.
No,
It's
that's
very,
wonderful.
very impactful.
That's a really good one.
And a reminder to us all to
Yeah.
not look at people who are on the street as like, oh, what's their problem? It's like, yeah, that's a great thing to do for your daughter.
Yeah.
Mine just seems so bad after that beautiful story. It's actually something that someone did for me. I was out for breakfast with my dad in London, Ontario. We had just one of those breakfasts where it was nonstop talking. We enjoyed ourselves, and then I was coming back to Toronto, and I asked for the bill. And the server just said, oh, it's been taken care of. And I believe the person just said, wanted to say thank you, and that was it. And I had no idea who did it.
For what? And no, thank you for we don't know.
We don't know.
Wow.
I have no idea. Presumably, maybe
something.
thank us for the show, I think.
Maybe just you?
Or maybe,
Like maybe Captain? Maybe?
maybe just me.
Yeah.
But it stayed with me. If that person is watching, thank you. You made me look like a real hotshot in front of my old man, too. It was just a really touching moment.
Oh my God, you inspired me. I'm going to do that.
Is it?
I'm going to do it.
It's such a nice thing, like the anonymity of it.
Yes.
That's right.
Not the doing and being like, this is what I did.
Oh my
for
God.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I paid for that.
It was so beautiful.
My act of kindness, I'm shouting out the entire city of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I lived out there for a while, and when I got out there, it was the springtime, and they kept on warning me about the winters out there.
Oh, no.
And I go, I'm Canadian. I'll be fine. I have a winter coat. But they were, in fact, very, very correct. It was a different kind of winter. And so my car was really not equipped for that winter, and I got stuck in every single snowbank, which made me panic because I had to get to work.
Of course.
And without ever having to ask, and I got stuck a lot because I had a car and I did not have winter tires.
Oh.
I know. Without having to ask, every single time I got stuck, somebody walking along the street would just stop and help me out. One guy even got in my car and helped drive my car out of the snowbank, and it happened to me so many times, and no one looked for a thank you. No one said anything. They were just like, don't worry, this happens all the time, and it helped me. So shout out to Saskatoon.
Beautiful.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
This is important, especially on a day-to-day, which can feel heavy, is to be looking out for these types of stories. And we were talking about social media earlier, which I often say, like, is very destructive and has a lot of, like, terribly divisive and horrible things on it. But there are some bright lights. There are people doing random acts of kindness. So there's somebody who, if you aren't following already, you should be. His name is Hamada Shakura. He's was previously a food blogger in Gaza, and now he spends his days feeding children. And these videos are these are displaced children from the war, and he feeds them everything from like sort of, like classic dishes from, and then all these, like, he'll do sometimes candy apples, and the joy that he spreads is just so important. He hardly says a word, but it is honestly, it'll bring a smile to your face and a tear to your eye.
That's lovely.
That's beautiful.
More of that.
That feels good. That feels really good.
Yeah.
But now we're going to a trend alert! Because Gwyneth Paltrow is the latest celeb spotted wearing a divisive Y2K trend, aka culottes, or ultra-cropped pants. So, will you be wearing them this spring? What do we think?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think you gotta be tall, really, to pull those off.
Gwyneth is like 5'9", 5'10".
Disagree. Disagree.
You do, eh?
I think culottes are timeless. I don't think they've ever gone out of style. I think they universally look bad on everyone.
Is that because
and I love them.
Is that because you're wearing them right now?
Am I? I don't think these are culottes.
No.
Okay, they're just above the ankle. Okay. It looked culotte when you were sitting down.
I love the culotte.
Your tag is out the back. Anyway.
You know what? I will say, as a short girl, I like that you brought up the tall person, short person thing, because I'm 5'2" on a good day. And I know with culottes, I bought a pair, and when I bought them...
You have culottes?
I have lots of culottes, actually. But when I bought them, I have a picture of it. The lady had said, these are meant for someone taller than you.
Those are not culottes.
Those are culottes.
Those are not culottes.
The girl told me they're too long for you. Those are culottes. They're meant for someone about 3 or 4 inches taller.
So they're culottes on somebody else.
They're culottes on somebody else.
Okay.
Not on
Those are gorgeous.
As someone who's short, we always have to hem our pants. With culottes, save some money. No hemming required.
That's actually a great idea. Because I told you before, that's my favorite outfit I've ever seen you in. That photo. I love that photo. And they're culottes.
Didn't have to hem them.
You know what? Does anybody else? I never grew up calling culottes culottes. I always called them clam diggers. Am I the only one?
Clam diggers. Yeah.
What is that?
That's what we called them. Growing up, they were clam diggers.
You guys, go.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not into shorts. I don't know. There's something about shorts. I just don't like to wear them. But I used to wear them probably when I was younger, and I feel like I'm in between the hoochie mama short phase of my life and the culotte. I'm not quite at the culottes. I'm right at the Bermuda short. I'm right in there. So I'm not quite going there.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm intrigued about culottes now. I'll tell you why. Because I didn't realize just what a controversial pant they were. So they started out. I'm just going to give you a tiny bit of a history lesson. If you'll indulge me.
Clam diggers?
So they were originally not clam diggers. No, they were originally a man's pant, and then in the Victorian era, women started wearing them, but kind of just because they were supposed to be wearing these big, stupid skirts as they got onto horses, and women were like, come on, can we do better? So the culotte, they started to absorb that. But in the 1930s, there was a woman, a Spanish tennis player named Lily de Alvarez. She wore a pair of Schiaparelli-designed culottes.
Oh, wow.
And she, listen to this.
Those are great. I love them.
Outraged reporters at the time of the Daily Mail who declared that she should be, quote, soundly beaten.
Ooh,
okay?
oh my
This was around the same time, again, 1930s, women were actually arrested in Paris for wearing culottes in public. So now, even though I don't really like them, I kind of want to wear them as a feminist statement. So all of us can look at the culottes.
Just don't expect to look good.
Exactly.
You'll feel good. You'll feel good.
Imagine if those people were around today to see what we are walking in the streets.
Oh my gosh. I'd be in a life sentence, my friends. Life sentence. All right, so how should you handle someone who complains relentlessly about their work? So a 27-year-old woman, she wrote to Dear Prudence about her boyfriend of a year who will not stop talking about how much he despises his corporate job. So she says that their relationship, it's great otherwise, but that his constant negativity, it's really, really tough to deal with. So the woe is me person, oh, everything sucks and I'm the victim and all the things. How do we handle this person?
Well, at least he has a job. That's nice.
Someone should remind
job. Do you know what? I think this is a tough situation to speak on, but I can speak on when your colleagues complain about work. I'm not talking about you guys, but in other jobs, I don't know if you guys have had jobs where everyone complains, or not everyone, but a few people complain, and it becomes taxing on you personally. And I feel like in the last little while, I've gone to great lengths to try to be, and this can be annoying, it's annoying when someone does it to me, but to try to see the glass is half full side and be the person, you make an excellent point.
Toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity.
I'm kidding.
You make a good point, but because my fear is sometimes when you have that toxicity, negativity among one person, it's contagious.
The negativity?
It spreads like wildfire.
I'm glad you said that.
When it could be such a simple thing to solve.
Yeah, my mentor actually told me in the early stages of my career, find that person in the workplace and steer clear of them.
That's good advice.
Do not get into that, because they usually like when there's a new employee, they like to like, oh, wait, you this place, oh, you wait till this place is the worst. They're like, steer clear of that person, focus on your job. This person has issues that they don't want to resolve. You don't want to get caught up in that nonsense because it is contagious. So that's interesting that you said.
Yeah.
Well, I think in this case, though, if you're living with that person, what I would get curious about, like, is this a new thing? I think it's been going on for about a year. Because again, as somebody who knows a lot about burnout now, one of the hallmark signs, there's 3 hallmark signs to ask yourself if you're going through burnout. One is like exhaustion, like waking up every day, having a hard time getting out of bed, just, absolute exhaustion. The second thing is that kind of depersonalization and cynicism. It's like, I kind of hate everything, I hate everyone, this is happening. And then the third thing is then being mad at yourself for feeling that way, feeling like I should do more, whatever. Those 3 things combined are usually a recipe for burnout. So again, I would be like, if you love this guy, what is going on here? Who can you talk to? How can you rearrange? Is this the job? Because sometimes it's also hard to tease out. Maybe the job ultimately sucks and you got to move on from it, but maybe
it's a
you
symptom.
are part of the problem. Your attitude needs to change.
Right? And I think that's a great point. I would say, at least for me, if you have to live with it all the time, it's maybe she has to just be honest. Like, this is, we've been together a year and you complain a lot about work. Do you realize how negative you are? And I want to be a sounding board for you.
Yeah.
But, like, there's also a part of complaining, and then there's also a part of finding a solution. Yeah. So maybe if you can reframe it to be like, listen, what is it exactly that you don't like about the job? Is it a person? Is it the role? Because you might be the person to help them see, like, maybe you got to get out of this job and find a new one.
You're saying it in a really nice way. How about some tough love? It's like, you should quit. I can't take it.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that because, bills.
I know, but then you push them. It's like, okay, if you don't like it, then quit. You'll find another job. What are you going to do?
Or what are you going to do to change
it?
it?
Give me the next 3 steps, because you can't burden us. Or is this person just want to vent?
Quiet quit. We learned about that. That's where you do the bare minimum at work and you go home and you don't worry about the rest. It's kind of like if I just did this. Like
No. I was like,
Jess, that's not quite quitting. I'll go back. Connor's making me go back.
The people who will end up having to pick up the slack for your quiet quitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Please don't do that. Yeah.
But
quiet quitting.
I think you hope that your person in your life is going to find some kind of joy and fulfillment in what they do, and vice versa. So maybe that's your role as the partner. Is you don't want to be living with a Debbie Downer.
No.
That, right?
No.
True. No.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.